Welcome to the Life Burst Podcast review of Stand Diva. Today we're going to be talking about green. I'm going to try to get through this because my voice can't handle many more cards. Ugh. We're going to talk about Dagu Jade General. This looks like a Terror Beast, but it's not. It's Brave. It's a level 1 power 1000. When this Signy is placed into the field, placed from the field into the enter zone, if there are 2 or less cards in your enter zone, then you can enter charge 1. Okay, so you want to place this in turn 1. You want it to survive to the next turn, which it probably will. And then when it does, you can enter charge it from your field. And when you enter charge it from your field, you get to get an extra enter. That's its whole gimmick. If you are playing this, you probably want to play it as a 4-of, because you're trying to enable that gimmick, or you are not. It's an okay Signy. It's viable. It's not particularly good, and its condition is easy to hit and easy to miss, depending on where you are in the game. But it's a good thing to have. So if you have a green level 1 slots open, then this can be the filler that you're looking for. But it's not going to be aggressively good either. It's not going to turn on your Parajuliuses immediately either. It's just going to be okay to have this filling out your level 1 slots that you need in green. The next one's Mariel Jade Beauty. It's got a constant ability of this Signy can't be vanished by the effects of your opponent's level 1 Signy, so basically Ramel. Its enter ability is target one of your L-rigs until end of turn. This Signy becomes one of those colors. And then its Life Burst is enter charge 1. The next time you take damage by a Signy, instead you aren't damaged. It's also power 3000. This card's good. It's there's not a lot of good level 1 green Signys, so by virtue of not having a ton of competition, it is okay. It's a pretty okay card. I'd say viable. Its whole gimmick is to turn on if you have 3 or more color effects, because it can turn itself into a multicolored till end of turn. So it becomes better in those types of decks. Outside of that, it's just an okay Signy. That is a little bit sticky. It's no Xiaojun at all. So consider this as a viable Signy, and readily get rid of it when we move up and have better green Signys in the future. But for now, it's fine. Octagon, Phantom Beast. Target one of your Signy, one of your other Signys, until end of turn it gets plus 5,000 power. It's its enter ability. Its Life Burst is target one of your Signy on your opponent's field. You may pay green if you do vanish it. It's a level 1, 3,000, and a Terror Beast, which is worth mentioning. This is a okay Signy as well. Its enter ability is much better than its Life Burst. Paying 2 enter to basically just vanish any Signy on the opponent's field is okay. It's especially okay in green. The fact that it's specifically green colored means that in most dual colored decks, you're going to have a hard time hitting that reliably. But if you are in a deck that likes team buffing, 5,000 power is a lot, and putting it on a level 1 Signy means that you are generally speaking going to be able to give it to anything often. That's its niche. If you are really into team buffing for a benefit in green, which green likes it, you'll want to play this. If it's not, you'll not want to play this. Again, a viable card. We got Sheeran Natural Plant. This is a level 2, power 3000, so that's low. If this Signy is in your center enter zone, then you get to draw a card. Reliably, this card is going to enter charge you 1. Most of the decks that are going to play it are going to play it like a spell. They're going to play it, they're going to enter charge, then they're going to sacrifice it. If you don't care about sacrificing it and you just want the enter charge and you're ready for this to get knocked out and give you basically another enter, then this card's fine. This card's good. This card is optimal. You'll play it from here on out. If you need enter charge in that level 2 slot, it's very reliable in that fact. Can also turn on some green shenanigans where if you enter charge this turn, you could do X effect. So this is a card that's worth playing. It probably de-seats Black Saddle as the de facto easy way to enter charge in green. So it's good. Play this card. We've got Code Maze Akufuku. Akufuku. It's a vanilla, level 2, 10,000 power. It's life versus enter charge 1. This turn you can't be damaged by your opponent's level 3 or less Signy. So this joins the hollowed halls of Folklore and Rimlight as ways to shut down opponents' attacks with a life burst in the level 2 zone. It also enter charges for what it's worth, which is quite good, and then stops that aggression. I would play this, and there's a lot of decks that I would play this in. If you were hurting for enter charging and you can use green, yeah, this card's great. This card's, for example, very good in Tamago, because it both wants enter and it likes those types of effects, and it's also in need of green. The cool thing with this is if your deck needs green enter for some kind of splash, you can play this quite easily over Folklore or Rimlight, and it will do basically the same effect. It'll get you a better chance at getting green, and then also be green enter on its own. Let's talk about Dagu Phantom Beast. This is a Terra Beast. It's got an ability of, at the end of your turn, target a Terra Beast Signy from your enter zone with less power than the Signy and put it on the field. Its enter abilities do not activate at the end of your turn. Okay, so if you're playing this and the opponent uses an Assist L rig to hamper one of your attacks, you can use this to lane clutter at the end. It's basically lane filling insurance. And is that good enough to play in your deck? Especially if you need to then fill your deck with Terror Beasts in order to make it work? The answer is no, not right now. There are future decks that want to see things enter the battlefield this turn. Those are usually not Terror Beasts. Those are usually Labyrinth Signies. So this kind of has the ability to maybe turn those on, but also kind of not. So, and it's also got to be power less than the Signy. So 5,000 or less is not a huge field of things to do. You got options, but not great ones. I'm going to say this is unplayable. I don't think you'll find a use for this one. All right, our first level 3, it's 10,000 power. It's Ghost Pipefish. As long as there is 4 or more cards in your hand, the Signy gets plus 3,000 power. Goes up to 13,000, which is a cool benchmark to hit. Its enter ability is green, draw a card. And then its life burst is draw a card and enter charge 2. That is a very good life burst. It is very rare that you get to draw a card and enter charge that much. So you have some stuff, however, that life burst does not hit the battle, like it doesn't affect the battlefield, so it goes down a peg, so it's just a pretty normal life burst then. Its enter ability is strange and green. Green doesn't normally get straight up draw a card, so it can be fine green filler. However, green doesn't also usually have more than 4 cards in hand, so this is going to be arguably 10,000 power more than it's 13,000. But I suppose this could go in a blue deck as well that you are also running green, and it could support it in that function. So it's okay there, but you want probably more from your level 3s. I'm going to go ahead and say viable. It has some use case scenarios, but none of them are all that great. Demeter, Jade Angel Cream. This is a level 3 with power 12,000. It's an angel, like we said. It's got Harmony 1 blue L rig. At the beginning of your attack phase, if there are 3 or more colors and Signies on your field, and the Signy is up, target one of your other Signies. You may pay green and colorless. If you do, until end of turn, it gains Lancer. And then also has an auto ability once a turn. During your turn, whenever one of your other Signy is vanished, you can enter charge 1. So it gives you a slight reward for your opponent interacting with you. It's nothing to write home about. That's not the good part of this card. It needs a Harmony of a blue L rig in order to really function. So again, that's a restriction on it that you're going to need. But generally speaking, blue and green decks have problems actually achieving damage. So if you are in those decks, this becomes a more attractive option for the fact that you can trade 2 enter in to give something Lancer and probably start getting in damage. It's good in that respect. It's also worth noting that it's an angel, and angels struggle with also damage. So this is another way that you can get damage in a tribe that struggles with getting damage. Now, I'm going to say something that's kind of a hot take. Demeter is not a good card for green decks. I know a lot of people are looking at Demeter. They immediately think it's a green card. I should put it in green deck, and then I get Lancer because green decks have big Signy, and big Signy's like Lancer, and you're correct on all of those fronts. However, Demeter wants to see 2 other colors on the battlefield, and the easiest way to achieve that is to play a 2-color deck that's not green. If you're playing enough to splash green, and this, by the way, helps splashing green because it's a green card, then if you're, for example, playing, I don't know, Tamago, you are playing white and you're playing blue, and you play this as your 3rd Signy. Well, your level 1s and your level 2s are probably white and blue, so you're achieving its effect, and you're being able to give something else Lancer. And that's really the key to this card, to make this card good. You don't really want to run it in green decks, even though it's a green card. You want to run it in non-green decks. That's where your best chance of being able to hit these things are. The only downside is you got to pay green in a colorless, so it still needs some amount of green to it. You can't play this in a 4-color green deck, but maybe an 8-color green, like an 8-card green deck, this might be playable. All right, let's talk about Code Labyrinth Giropon. It's got a lot of text here. Level 3, 12,000 power, Mectone Labyrinth, so we know it's going to mess around with the field. That's what labyrinths do. If your opponent would place a Signy, it must be placed in front of the Signy if able. During your turn, Signy can't be moved from the field to zones other than the enter zones by your opponent's effect, and specifically only this one. Whenever one of the Signy on your opponent's field is placed in front of the Signy, it gets negative 3,000 power. Okay, so this does some kind of a job of lane cluttering. It doesn't do a great job because the opponent has control over what it's doing these effects for, right? It can place literally any Signy in front of this Signy first, and then it can place another Signy elsewhere if it needs the other Signy to do its job. Okay, it'll make the other Signy do its job. It will shrink that Signy. Realistically, the way to get this to pull off its maximum effect, if your opponent can't interact with it, and that's a big if, because, again, normally your opponents can interact with stuff on their turn. If you're playing things like, for example, Quinn. Quinn also gives negative effects and rearranges your opponent's field. Kayasumi also rearranges your opponent's field. There's a deck forming here now. Not one where you rearrange your own field, but rearrange your opponent's field. This is a draw to do that type of thing. That is going to be your goal for this deck. Again, it's a labyrinth, and all of those other things I said are labyrinth too, so it gives more towards the critical mass of opponents' Signy zone swapping. That deck doesn't exist yet, but it could exist in the future, and that's something to consider with this. It also says that this Signy can't be moved into fields other than the enter zone. It means it can get vanished. It can be still killed in combat. So I wouldn't reliably be like, oh, this Signy's uninteractable. No, it's still going to get vanished most of the time. This card is currently unplayable. It could become more playable in the future if there's more stuff that support lane switching in your opponent's side of the field. For now, unplayable. Let's talk about another unplayable card. Cyber Tiger. Saber Tiger has Harmony 1 Elrig, which is something you're going to need anyways because it needs to have red enter as well in order to function. Its ability is all of your other Signy get plus 3,000 power. It's pretty average for level 3 Signys that team buff, but not unwelcome. Its auto abilities, whenever this attacks, you get to enter charge 1. Then if there are 3 or more cards removed into your deck to the enter zone this turn, then you may pay green, red, colorless. If you do, you can vanish target Signy on your opponent's field. No restrictions, just vanish it. Yeah, that's a good thing. 3 enter to do it, not so great. One of those enters basically being free because you're enter charging when it attacks, that's a good thing. So 2 enter. 2 enters a normal amount that I'd pay for. Downside, you need to have enter charged 3. Or 2 at least. You need to enter charge at least 2. Doable in green, tough to pull off. There are Elrigs that'll do that for you. Wolf will do that. Senga will do that. Bang will do that. Well, Bang will help you get there. Senga will help you get there. All these things like basically require Osaga Getsune to really like function, and then when you look at Osaga Getsune, you just realize it has an easier requirement and also a cheaper cost, and it's also not 2 colors, and it doesn't have harmony. And then you start going, oh, this card's not so great when you compare it to Osaga Getsune. So realistically, is this card good? I think you'd be better off not playing this card. I know it's cool. It's one of our first Signies. It's a splashy Signy. It's one of our first Signies that do multicolored stuff, but I think you'd be better off not playing it. So personally, I'd avoid this card if I were you guys. Doesn't mean you can't play it. It's got an okay effect, but realistically, I think your deck's better off if you're not building around this. The last one is Affection. Its cost is green. It also can have the Exceed 4. Again, if you guys watched the other videos, Exceed 4 is a heavy cost. Target one of your Signies on your field until end of turn. It gains plus 5,000 power. It also gains whenever the Signy attacks, you can enter charge 1. Additionally, if you played Exceed 4, all of your Signies get this ability. That's good. It pays for itself with its enter charge attacks. And you also get some reliability with the fact that if you exceed on this, you could enter charge 3, so it basically enter charges 2. And if they remove something, you still get the enter charge 1, so you're still up 1 enter. And then the team buff is 5,000. 5,000 is basically the bare minimum in order to take non-important Signies and put their numbers into important levels. So it's a good cost. The problem is you're wasting a card to not really affect the board. Enter charging isn't affecting the board. Plussing the power doesn't necessarily affect the board. It gives things more power, but it doesn't change much on stuff. So I'm going to go ahead and say viable. There's times that you'd play this, but you're better off playing stuff that literally affects the boards, like Deafening Inferno. And that's green. What cards did you guys think green got? Personally, I think green didn't benefit very much in this set. I think the only things that really were piquing my interest were Chirin and Akufuku. But I'd love to hear what you guys think. To beat or J and Angel too, I guess. I should consider that one.